What is up, you guys? My name is Aubrey and this is my channel, and I have a big question to ask, and that is, has the SBA screwed over their EIDL loan and EIDL grant recipients? And I'm not talking about people who applied and were denied, and as a result, these people feel like they were screwed in the process. I'm talking about legitimate business owners that really applied and were eligible for the EIDL grant and the EIDL loan. They were told that they were going to get it, and yet they still have not received anything. Because if this describes you, and if this describes your business, then you are not alone. Because there has been a huge portion of people reporting the exact same thing. And so today we're going to talk about these details and whether or not the SBA could have screwed over real, legitimate, and eligible EIDL recipients. So let's get started. You see, whenever the CARES Act was passed back in March and the EIDL program was implemented as a way to combat the effects of COVID-19, the point of the application process was to be able to apply, get your funds within 3 days, and to be able to use those funds for 6 months worth of operating expenses. And that is unfortunately not what ended up happening. Whenever the EIDL application portal was opened, the average amount of time that the user would wait for the grant or the cash advance was roughly 41 days, which is significantly longer than the 3 days that was quoted in the CARES Act. And then on a July 1st hearing, an SBA Associate Administrator, James Rivera, said that we are 99% funded, meaning that 99% of the EIDL grant funds have been distributed to the EIDL recipient's bank account, meaning that it is funded and it is sitting in their bank account. But then on July 6th and July 7th, a national survey was conducted by the National Federation of Independent Businesses, which found that many applicants had not been funded. In fact, of the business owners that were surveyed through this national survey, 67% of the business owners said that they were approved for EIDL funds, but only 55% of those people said that they had actually received the funds that they were approved for. And about 25% of all of the individuals surveyed said that they were still waiting to hear whether or not they were approved or denied for the loan altogether. Now, whenever the SBA was initially probed on this and was asked why they were reporting a 99% funding rate whenever the survey is conducting significantly lower than that, they really attributed it to a computer glitch and said that that's the reason why the numbers are being reported differently. But then whenever they were probed even further, they refused to comment and they refused to send any sort of statement or any sort of solid word as to why there is such a discrepancy in numbers of what they're reporting versus what surveys are finding. Now, there is no doubt that the SBA has sped up their EIDL loan application process, and I had made a video about this in the beginning of July stating that the SBA administrator herself had said that they were starting to really expedite the application process, and I have seen that myself through you guys in the YouTube comments. In fact, whenever I applied for the EIDL loan and grant program, it took me about a month and a half to get funded. But I am seeing more and more people, and the people that I know in my personal life who have applied recently are getting funded in a couple of days. But I see it myself in the comments. There are a lot of people who are reporting that they are receiving their funds really quickly, that it's within a few days, if not a week, and that's amazing. But there are a huge chunk of people who are reporting the exact opposite, that are stating that they are not receiving any word of their loan at all. And when they do receive it, the information is very vague and it's very hard to come by. And if they get approved, the funding timeline is extremely long and it's extremely convoluted and confusing, and there's no real sorts of updates. And it seems like these two different scenarios are so incredibly different, and that there's really no reason as to why people are receiving scenario B and others are receiving scenario A. Because I know people who have very similar businesses and yet they have very different experiences when they are applying for the EIDL loan and the EIDL cash advance. But then that begs the question of, why is there such a discrepancy in numbers, and why is the SBA being so vague and so difficult in providing transparency on their numbers? The fact of the matter is the SBA is reporting 99% funding rate, while the survey itself is reporting that only 55% of the approved individuals have received funding, which means that of all the people who have been approved, 45% of those people have heard nothing about the status of their loan or the status of their grant. Now, on the surface, this may not seem like that big of a deal. At the end of the day, government programs are always a mess and they always take a long time, and the EIDL program is no exception to that. But whenever you really start looking at the details of this program and the details of the fact that the SBA is reporting 99% funding rate, but surveys are reporting significantly lower than that, there are are a lot of issues that can come up, especially considering the fact that the grant program ended about a week ago. And so that begs the question of, if you are somebody who was approved for the loan but have yet to be funded, like 45% of the individuals taken in that survey, does that mean that you are still going to be receiving that cash advance despite the fact that the program ended? And how does this affect your funding overall? Because as time goes on, the EIDL program is going to have less and less funds to give out. And as this backlog becomes larger, I think that we'll see a larger risk of people who are approved of funds but never actually receive those funds. And I'm seeing it all the time in the YouTube comments, people who are approved and then it takes weeks, if not months, to get their funds. And it's something that I'm seeing time and time again right here on YouTube. And so the amount of people that are experiencing nationwide that simply aren't vocalizing it is probably ridiculously large. So if you are somebody who applied for the EIDL program and you were approved and you have yet to receive your funds, just know that you are not alone. And I do think that the fact that there are so many people in this exact same situation help you in the long run, because it means that you are not kind of the odd man out, is that chances are the SBA is much further behind than they want to admit, and that means that there is a larger chance that you will end up receiving your funds at the end of the day. But then to answer the question that I asked at the beginning of the video, do I think that the SBA is scamming Americans? Do I think that they're screwing us over? And unfortunately, that answer is not an easy one to give. Do I think that the SBA and the government is being very deceptive and very unclear with how a government program, essentially paid by taxpayers, is doing? And I think absolutely. I think that the way that the government has handled these government programs is embarrassing, to say the least. But you guys, what do you guys think? Do you guys think that the SBA is scamming us? Do you think that this has been an efficient program? Do you think that the SBA is intentionally not giving information to cover their own butt in the process? I would love to hear your thoughts in your comments, so make sure to leave a comment down below and I will try my best to respond to every single comment. While you're at it, make sure to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and hit that notification bell, and I will see you guys in the next video.